I let him win for 5 years. 5 years of underestimations and dismissals, each one a pinprick to my pride. I wore my humiliation like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. But I soon realized they couldn't see the battle raging inside me. My suffering was invisible, a ghost roaming among the living. In that silence, a bitter sort of enlightenment unfurled. Confusion melted into clarity. I didn't want their understanding. I wanted correction. It wasn't about the wounds anymore, but about strategy. Every insult turned into a lesson. Every laugh at my expense became fuel. I transformed pain into resolve, the kind that slices through complacency like a knife. Each day I observed, an invisible predator studying its prey. I recorded their patterns, their weaknesses. I learned to breathe quietly, gathering strength in the shadows. Power didn't need to announce itself. I stopped longing for my voice to be heard. I craved to haunt their memories. My revenge wouldn't scream for acknowledgement. It would simmer silently, calculated and poised, like a coiled spring waiting to strike. I stopped reacting, the noise of emotions dulled by the eerie calm I'd cultivated. Instead, I watched. I listened. I became a ghost circling the one who wronged me, ever vigilant, each raised eyebrow, each careless laugh. These weren't just indicators. They were blueprints of their arrogance, patterns weaved into an intricate tapestry that outlined their vulnerabilities. As the days wore on, my pain morphed into something more disciplined. I documented everything: his habits, his slips, the moments he mistook my silence for weakness. I transformed his underestimation into my arsenal, sharpening it with every revelation. I learned the rhythm of his life, recognized the predictable ebb and flow of his routine like a chilling lullaby. I was invisible yet ever present, collecting data instead of bruises. My control, a weapon forged in silence, became my solace. Each unspoken word, every restrained impulse calculated. The hunger for fairness faded into cold strategizing. I did not yearn for their acknowledgement. I craved lingering shadows, haunting memories of my absence while I prepared for the final act. Pain was no longer my master. I was its cold, calculating keeper. In the silence, I found my strength. Emotion became an inconvenience, a weight I discarded like old skin. Fairness felt childish, love a distraction. I embraced precision, allowing strategy to seep into my bones, each calculated step a quiet rebellion against the 5 years of humiliation. I began to build my arsenal. Research transformed into reconnaissance. I uncovered their secrets, uncovering a web of connectives, favors owed, alliances feigned. I fostered whispers, carefully positioning myself among their world, a ghost among shadows. With subtlety, I found allies who craved freedom from my enemy's grip. They spoke in hushed tones, eyes darting, the thrill of shared animosity fueling their resolve. The documents piled in my safe. Bank statements, agreements, hidden trades, all slipped out of sight, fraying their grasp on what they thought was stability. My heart no longer raced. It operated like a metronome, steady and cold. I crafted messages, each thinly veiled threat a reminder of their underestimation. With every passing day, I became less a spectator and more a strategist, a maestro orchestrating their demise without a single note of warning. I let go of retribution painted in bright strokes. Mine would be a quiet ending, a whisper that resonated. I didn't need them to remember my name. I needed them to remember their folly. Silence settled around me, a thick fog cloaking my presence. I'd erased my footprint, no calls, no texts. I became a whisper, a shadow lingering just beyond reach. He thrived in his misplaced comfort, unaware of the storm gathering in the dark. Newly emboldened, they chuckled at the idea of me ever making a move. They believed their victory was secure, a fatal miscalculation. Every unnoticed moment fed my resolve. I relished their ignorance, became more methodical. I slipped into the margins of their world, increasingly adept at harnessing influence from unseen corners. Conversations twisted into resources, secrets into strategies. Each new asset added weight to my arsenal, a silent reminder that power can thrive in stillness. Instead of confrontation, I sought consequences. I didn't need apologies or declarations. I wanted them to feel the absence I'd crafted around me. I wanted them to look over their shoulders, to question the void where I used to stand. As the clock ticked down, my heart thrummed in unison, steady and measured. They'd see my presence in the aftermath, the carefully laid traps snapping shut. I was no longer a player in their game. I was the architect of their unraveling. Patience wasn't just a strategy. It was a weapon, honed and precise, ready to awaken when the moment was right. The stillness was intoxicating, a calm that masked the predatory grace of my approach. I became adept at slipping into the seams of their world, unnoticed but not uninvolved. They danced in their comfortable ignorance, laughing while I gathered momentum like a storm held at bay. Each casual joke at my expense, merely a sign of their confidence, became something more, a point of leverage. Mistakes were made, secrets revealed, and I gathered details like trophies. Their alliances were tenuous threads, and with each conversation, I wove a tapestry of deceit that they would soon find themselves ensnared in. Their misplaced hubris grew bolder, casting shadows over their perceptions. I watched as they enjoyed their victories, oblivious to the snare tightening around them. In that cocoon of silence, I became a shadow, whispering through corridors and amidst crowded halls. My presence, once felt as a threat, turned to a lingering question. Where had I gone? Their dismissals rang hollow now, a warning echoing against the walls they had erected. They believed their reality was unchanged. They couldn't see the puppet strings now held firmly in my grasp. Every whispered warning from my newfound allies drove me deeper into a quiet resolve. I wasn't just waiting for the right moment to strike. I was carving out an empire within my own absence, each connection a tool in a grand design. Power didn't need to shout. It whispered, and my whispers were soon to resound like thunder. Everything was in place. The last file saved, the final contact made. I stood at the edge of a precipice I had crafted, breathing quietly, ready to ignite the fuse. The air around me felt heavy with anticipation, an electric tension humming softly against my skin. I had transformed silence into power, every moment a calculated step towards my reckoning. Then it happened. A single, careless sentence, flippantly thrown during a meeting. Laughter erupted, a brief and hollow celebration of my absence. "He never mattered anyway," one of them said, a near-invisible scorcher that pricked at my composure. Their blindness was breathtaking, each chuckle a herald of the impending storm. In that instant, something shifted. Resolution replaced the last flickers of rage. I was no longer jockeying for revenge. The blueprint of justice was complete. It would come to fruition in one swift and silent motion. Still, beneath the resolve, shadows unfurled. Was someone watching? A flicker of hesitation passed through me, but it dissolved as quickly as it arrived. I recalibrated, just a knife being sharpened again. Calmly, I reassessed. I had anticipated failure. I embraced it. Silence would guide me. Faint doubts faded. I was the architect, and this building would stand strong. I executed the plan with precision, the final pieces falling into place without a hitch, each movement slow and deliberate. Emails sent, accounts frozen, truths unleashed, all silently orchestrated as I pulled the strings from the shadows. Each click of the mouse was not just an action. It was a confirmation that the ghosts of my past now wielded a new power. I savored the stillness, the hum of the digital world going quiet as chaos awakened. In that calculated calm, I could almost hear the complacency of those who had underestimated me. Their laughter, so loud during my downfall, was now stifled, drowned beneath the weight of their delusions. The betrayer wouldn't see it until it was far too late. An intricate web woven so seamlessly that it would ensnare even the sharpest eyes. Not one flicker of satisfaction arose within me. I was no longer a man seeking revenge. I had become an architect of justice, and I was impervious to the noise of emotion. Each consequence they would face was a silent echo of their own making, the realization dawning on them too late. I didn't need to see their faces contort with disbelief. That was mere theater, unnecessary now. I walked away mentally untethered, the weight of 5 years finally dissipating. In this silence I had found mastery. I didn't look back. There was nothing to regret. Every moment reeked of tranquility, a stark contrast to the disarray unraveling in my absence. They would scramble, questions flying, alliances collapsing like poorly balanced towers. And I would watch from afar, a mere observer of their chaos, sipping tea while the echoes of their confusion reverberated in the spaces I used to occupy. This was my quiet victory. Their laughter lingered in the background, like a mocking tune, oblivious to the storm I had unleashed. They scrambled, confusion now the fickle shade behind their familiar arrogance. I could almost feel the collective heartbeat of unease among them, a desperate rhythm trying to locate balance amidst their chaos. What just happened? I imagined them asking, eyes darting, minds racing to catch up with a reality they once took for granted. That false sense of security I had witnessed for years crumbled under the weight of sudden isolation. I was no longer the whisper they dismissed. I had become the silence that suffocated. One by one, they reached for their phones, their faces pale with uncertainty. Contacts vanished, doors slammed shut. All the connections they had bragged about lay disintegrating like brittle leaves in autumn. They hadn't considered the depth of my preparation, the meticulous handling of their information. They were amateurs dancing on the stage of consequences, and I was the puppeteer hidden behind the curtain. I poured hot tea into a delicate cup, savoring the warmth as I watched the echoes of their collapse ripple outward. No need for recognition. My satisfaction thrived on their distress. Instead of urgency, a serene peace flooded me, a celebration of their reckoning unfolding in silence. The war waged within me for 5 years had finally settled. Each drop of chaos spilled onto their lives was a testament to the quiet patience I had harnessed. Here, in the stillness of my solitude, I relished my triumph, the calm before the storm they had failed to anticipate. The world buzzed with the trivial chatter of oblivious voices, scattered murmurs, disconnected laughter. I found solace in the quiet corners behind closed doors, isolating myself within a perfectly woven web of absence. Where did he go? They whispered, their worry a resounding chorus echoing through crowded rooms. But little did they know, my absence had become a constellation, mapping their every move, lighting the path I had orchestrated so meticulously. The air grew heavy, electric with anxiety. I watched from shadows, a spectator of my own silent storm. I heard their rising panic, the scramble, the questions, the impending collapse. Their attempts to reconcile my disappearance were futile. They could not grasp the masterpiece of my quiet revolution. Each touchpoint I had facilitated turned their allies into agents of self-doubt, betrayal lurking in every corner. Then, a flash. A solitary message pinged across the screen, a familiar name igniting a spark in my gut. An old enemy reaching out too late, their words empty echoes scrambling for meaning amidst my calculated silence. I smiled, an icy realization dawning. They had become the architects of their own unraveling. No response required. I had crossed that bridge of emotions long ago, relinquishing the need for redemption. Justice, unapologetically, was already served. In that moment, the stillness solidified, a rich silence that promised an end to the chaos I had so carefully nurtured. I felt the tension snap, a final breath before the inevitable descent. The stage was set. No applause was necessary. The silence would speak volumes. And as I remained ensconced in tranquility, I embraced the beautiful irony. I had taken everything in one masterstroke, and their acknowledgement would forever remain in the shadows of my absence. I took a deep breath, the final threads of 5 years unraveling at my fingertips. With a quiet intensity, I set my plan into motion. Emails sent, accounts frozen, truths laid bare. Silence enveloped my actions like a shroud, every keystroke an unfurling promise. The hours languished, stretching until each tick of the clock felt like a heartbeat. My heart steady, metronomic in its awareness of the power I wielded. Suddenly chaos erupted in their world. I could see it from my remote vantage point. A flurry of movement, frantic questioning that pierced through the fabric of their smug little lives. Confusion spilled from their lips like poison, each frantic call a testament to their underestimation. What's happened? They must have screamed, unraveling before me, ghosts chasing shadows of their own making. One of them, their laughter carved from doubt, would soon find their facade cracking under my precision. I had counted the laughs during my fall, each one a pin that now turned in their wounds. The balance had tipped. I became the weight they could no longer bear. With every shift of their realities, I felt a cool satisfaction. Not joy, not triumph, just a quiet acknowledgement of a meticulous plan laid bare. I drank my tea slowly, relishing my solitude while across the town they crumbled. One would reach for a phone only to find numbers disconnected. Another would run to open a door that had slammed shut. I didn't need to see their faces. Their panic was a masterpiece unfolding, sorrowful strokes on a canvas they thought impenetrable. Inside, the clarity was crystalline, every scar from those years alive in me, yet somehow diminished in the face of my newfound dominion. I did not need their acknowledgement, their realization that I was no longer a player, but the puppeteer. This was my triumph. Power didn't shout. It whispered through the cracks of their whole world facade, suffocating them with the weight of their own ignorance. As they scattered like leaves before a wind, bewildered, lost, I remained anchored, a silent architect amidst the chaos. I had taken everything from them with the most delicate of touches, a fire with no smoke, burning bright and unseen. I reflected, this was my justice, and it felt like reclaiming a long-lost identity. No one needed to know the depths of my journey. They had extinguished my flame once, but now it shone with a purpose they'd never anticipated. In that moment, I savored the silence. No laughter echoed in my ears, only the serene realization that I had transcended mere revenge. I had arrived at a place where their echoes could no longer reach me, and all at once, their world that had once seemed so vast, fragmented like glass, shards flying everywhere, crashing into the reality they thought they controlled, struggling to piece together their disjointed narratives. A lesson in complexity. The deeper the silence, the louder the impact. I walked alone, the weight of my past trailing behind like a half-remembered nightmare. Ghosts of humiliation and resentment faded into the distance, their echoes swallowed by the silence I had cultivated. This wasn't a defeat, it was a choice, a manifestation of something greater than revenge. Clarity wrapped around me like a cool breeze, refreshing yet sharp, reminding me of the battles I had fought. The streets were empty, just me and the hollow thrill of closure. Each step was measured, purposeful. I didn't need their acknowledgement. A fleeting glance up as they scurried away from the ruins of their arrogance would suffice. I had seen their disbelief, the dawning horror reflected in their faces as their fortress crumbled. The laughter that once stung like needles now felt far away, just an old recording playing in another life. As I passed familiar corners where I had once stood as the invisible man, I felt a hollow expanse where pain used to dwell. It wasn't the scars that haunted me, but the knowledge that I had walked a path meticulously crafted from silence, restraint, and strategy. I had taken everything but had left behind an emptiness that belonged to them, a gaping void of consequences for their naivete. I stopped at a locked door, a symbolic barrier between what I was and what I had become. I traced its frame with my fingertips, each line a reminder of past entanglements, now discarded like discarded threads from an unraveling tapestry. I didn't wish for a conversation or an apology. I relished the quiet of non-acknowledgement. I was not a victim. I was the architect of a more significant narrative unfolding in silence, a life rewritten without the need for witnesses. As I continued down the road, the world blurred into insignificance. I had wrestled with heartbreak, intertwining pain with precision, and now I lingered at the intersection of release and renewal. There would be no grand gestures, no final battles, just the lingering essence of a ghost who had learned to haunt memories without doing harm. The worth of my pain had become a quiet understanding, a powerful wisdom. I didn't need their sympathy. I wanted silence, the sound of lessons unlearned and consequences unfaced. Each empty space spoke volumes, the harmony of absence echoing in every still corner. So I chose the solitude of this path, stepped into the thick quiet, where the noise of their mistakes and my pain faded into oblivion. It was complete. Every shard of bitterness, every echo of laughter had melded into a lesson learned. I was no longer shackled to the narrative they wrote about me. I had taken from them what they took from me, a piece of joy, a measure of self. And in that silence, the air hummed with the promise of tomorrow. What mattered now wasn't vengeance, but transformation. I had resolved the conflict within, emerged unscathed. There lay the profound weight of clarity in my solitude, echoing without disturbance amidst the fading footsteps of a once maligned life. With each step, the world around me felt brighter, unencumbered by past shadows. I left behind not just a battlefield, but a legacy of quiet strength, a testament to all that had been endured and overcome. No longer an echo of their laughter, I was a silent witness to my mastery, a proud keeper of my own story.